Close your eyes and let the world fall quiet. Somewhere beyond the ticking of clocks, beyond the hum of thought, time begins to breathe. It moves softly, like wind over sand, carrying whispers of everything that has ever been. The rise of empires, the rustle of silk, the laughter of children long gone. The air feels older here, not heavy, just settled, filled with the faint trace of smoke, of rain, of memory that no longer needs to be named. There is no single moment to arrive at, no point where things truly begin. Time gathers itself slowly, the way night gathers light, without asking to be noticed. You drift through centuries without weight, without direction. A warmth passes, then fades, a distant river, a low glow, voices moving somewhere beyond reach, not calling, just continuing. The golden breath of the Nile passes quietly. So do stone halls lit by candlelight. So do villages where laughter once lingered in the air, and wide northern plains where the wind never learned to hurry. These are not places to visit. They are impressions. They move past without asking you to follow. Each breath brings you closer, not to the past, but to something slower, the steady rhythm that remains when names and dates fall away. There is no need to hold on to any of it. Nothing here requires memory. You are safe in this movement. Time does not press forward. It does not pull back. It simply unfolds. Let the words rest where they land, like fabric settling on still water, like sound fading into distance without needing to disappear completely. There is no rush, no signal to listen more closely, no need to decide what matters. The rhythm carries itself, and as the space between moments grows quieter, the past does not announce itself. It does not call. It does not wait. It moves the way breath moves, patient, unconcerned with being heard. You do not need to follow it. You are already within it. Ancient Egypt. The dream of the concubine. The desert lies beneath a river of stars, the night warm and wide, the sand glimmering like powdered glass beneath the moon, the breath of wind moving softly through date palms and over the sleeping earth. Far across that still horizon stands the palace, built of pale stone resting between silence and eternity, its walls reflecting the light of distant constellations that shimmer above the Nile. The air is scented with resin and crushed lotus, faint traces of myrrh rising from bronze lamps that burn through the hours before dawn. Inside, corridors stretch like veins of gold, carrying whispers from one courtyard to another, from fountain to garden, from chamber to chamber, where the concubines rest in quiet grace. They are the daughters of the Nile, chosen for beauty and calm, not born to rule and not born to serve, living in the still water between destiny and desire. They sleep on low beds draped in linen thin as air, their breathing light, their dreams scattered like petals. In the hush before morning, a servant draws back the curtain, and the first thread of light slips into the room, gentle and amber. One by one the women wake, their eyes opening to the soft murmur of fountains. They rise slowly, letting the coolness of the floor touch their feet, their movements smooth, their gestures learned from generations before them. The day begins not with haste but with ritual. In the courtyard, a pool of turquoise stone waits, ringed with carved lotus petals. The water is calm, holding the reflection of the pale sky. The concubines step into it, each breath shallow, each motion careful. The sound of water against skin is the only song. A priestess watches from the shade, her robes white, her hands raised slightly as she murmurs words older than memory. They are not commands, not pleas, simply phrases meant to steady the soul. Oil floats on the surface of the pool, scented with almond and rose. When the women leave the water, droplets slide from their skin like tiny gems. Servants approach, drying their bodies with woven cloth, combing hair with ivory teeth, binding braids with gold threads. The light grows stronger now, sliding across alabaster floors, turning every shadow to honey. Each woman moves with quiet precision, every gesture soft, deliberate, perfect. Breakfast follows in silence. Small bowls of figs and dates, honey thick and dark, bread still warm from the ovens. They eat seated on low cushions, facing the open air. Beyond the courtyard, the desert shines, endless and white. The sound of the river drifts faintly through the gardens, mingled with birdsong. It is enough. No one speaks of what lies beyond the walls. No one asks what hour it is. The rhythm of the palace replaces time itself. After the meal, they walk beneath carved columns painted with blue and ochre. The halls are cool, lined with frescoes of boats, herons, reeds and stars. A flute plays somewhere unseen, its notes long and soft. The concubines move toward the chamber of music. Harps of cedar and ivory stand waiting. One by one they take their places. The priestess who guides their lessons lifts her hand, and the sound begins slow, repeating circular. The women play with closed eyes, fingers grazing strings until sound becomes touch. The music fills the space like water poured into a bowl. When the song ends, the priestess bows her head. She speaks of rhythm as prayer, of harmony as offering. The women listen, not with devotion but with understanding. To live in stillness is its own form of worship. They nod, and silence returns, deep and kind. Later they practice dance, not for display but for balance. Their bare feet slide across the floor, in slow arcs. Hands rise, turn, open. The movement is simple yet complete. The air shifts around them like silk. When they stop, the world feels calmer, the heart steady. They bow again to the priestess, who smiles faintly, her eyes reflecting the quiet pride of someone who has taught peace rather than art. By midday, heat gathers outside. The air beyond the palace shimmers. Servants close the shutters, drawing thin curtains of linen that filter the light into ribbons of gold. The concubines rest on cushions of down, their faces turned toward the faint breeze. Some read from papyrus rolls, lines of poetry tracing love and memory. Others embroider, silver needles moving through cloth, threads catching glints of sun. A few drift into half-sleep, the hum of cicadas blending with the distant echo of waves against the riverbank. Time moves like sand through an hourglass, unhurried and endless. The palace is a vessel floating on still water. Every sound, a step, a sigh, the flutter of wings is absorbed by its walls. Outside, laborers carve stones for temples, farmers call to oxen, scribes dip reeds in ink. Inside, the concubines breathe in rhythm with the air, living in a space untouched by urgency. When the sun reaches its highest point, the priestess returns. She carries a bowl of flowers and incense. She walks slowly through the corridors, leaving a trail of fragrance that settles like dust. The women follow her to the temple court, a square of light framed by columns. In its center stands an altar carved with the image of a lotus in bloom. The priestess places her bowl upon it. She speaks to the gods of water and sky, her voice low, melodic, ancient. The concubines kneel around her, heads bowed. Their lips move with the same words, not from belief or fear, but from custom, from the comfort of rhythm. The prayer is short, a wish for harmony, for gentle dreams, for the safety of the world. When it ends, they rise. The air feels lighter, as though the act of speaking had polished it. They return to their chambers, each carrying a small sense of order within. The priestess remains alone, touching the carved lotus with her fingertips, her eyes closed. She too understands that silence can be sacred. Evening begins with color. The sky melts from gold to rose, from rose to violet, from violet to blue, so deep it seems to drink the world. Lamps are lit along the walls. The scent of oil fills the corridors again, mingled now with cedar smoke. The concubines gather for their meal, seated on woven mats near an open arch that looks toward the west. The sun's last edge touches the dunes before sinking. A servant pours wine diluted with water, sweet and mild. They eat slowly, bread, figs, small fish, grilled with herbs. The sound of their voices is soft, a murmur like the river. When the meal ends they linger, watching the first stars appear. The moon rises pale and full. Somewhere a harp begins again, softer than before, notes floating on the night air. The women listen, their eyes half closed. One hums under her breath, another traces a pattern in the dust beside her cushion. The song feels endless, circular, comforting. Sometimes a gong sounds from deep within the palace. The vibration rolls through the corridors, faint but unmistakable. The women pause. It means the pharaoh is awake. It means one of them may be called. The silence that follows is weightless. Eyes lift, glances meet, then drift away. A servant appears, bows, whispers a name. One woman stands. She smooths her hair, adjusts the fold of her linen, and leaves without a word. Her footsteps fade. The others lower their heads, return to their quiet occupations. No envy, no fear, only understanding. The palace breathes once more, but most nights the gong remains silent. The pharaoh does not come. The hours belong to them. They gather near the open windows, the night wind cool on their skin. Beyond the walls, the river gleams silver under the moon. They speak in low voices, sharing fragments of memory. The scent of rain in their home villages, the taste of fruit picked in summer, the sound of their father's laughter echoing across courtyards, long gone. The stories weave together like threads, forming a fabric that holds them close. Their laughter rises softly, fading into the hum of crickets. One woman reaches for her harp. She plucks a single string, then another. The sound glides through the air like breath. Others join, some singing, some only listening. Their song is not of sorrow or hope, but of simple being. It fills the room with warmth, erases distance, stretches time. When the music fades, they sit in silence once more, watching the flame of the lamp flicker against the wall. Shadows dance across their faces. The moon has climbed high, pouring light through the window lattices, drawing patterns across the floor. The women remain still, each lost in thought, the peace between them complete. Night deepens, some rise and move to their chambers, others linger, unwilling to break the moment. The air has cooled, carrying with it the scent of water and sand. Somewhere, a dog barks in the distance, then the desert swallows the sound. In her room, one woman kneels beside a small altar. It holds a tiny statue of the goddess of the sky, carved smooth from alabaster, its wings folded around a single crystal. She lights a lamp, and places a lotus petal before it. Her lips move in quiet words, a prayer not of asking, but of gratitude, for the calm that fills her days, for the beauty that endures even in stillness. The flame wavers as if answering. She closes her eyes, breathes once, then extinguishes the lamp. Elsewhere, others prepare for sleep. They unbraid their hair, slip beneath linen sheets, close their eyes. The sound of the river drifts through the night, constant and kind. Their breathing joins it, a steady rhythm that seems to echo through the palace itself. Outside, the dunes lie unmoving. The stars tilt slowly westward. The world is suspended between silence and dream. Night lingers like a breath that never leaves. The palace resting beneath a silver sky. The air soft and endless, the river whispering to the stones as it passes. Inside, lamps fade to embers, and the fragrance of burnt resin curls upward, dissolving into the dark. The priestess walks alone through the corridor, her steps barely touching the floor, her hands folded around a bowl of water that glows faintly in the lamplight. She pauses beside the great doors of the women's quarters, and listens, hearing only the steady rhythm of sleep. She feels the hush settle around her like silk, and moves on, the water trembling but never spilling. In one chamber, the women dream. They drift in quiet waves of thought, far from the heat of day. A few dream of the river, the sound of oars dipping, the scent of wet clay. One dreams of the open desert, and the shape of wind moving through dunes. Another dreams of music, a harp that plays itself, each note a memory of sunlight on stone. Their dreams fold together, soft and formless, the shared language of silence. The moon sinks lower, brushing its light against the edge of the pool. The reflection trembles and breaks, reforming with each gust of wind. Shadows of palm leaves shiver across the walls. Beyond the gates, the desert is awake, unseen creatures stirring, sand shifting under the hooves of a distant animal. The palace stands unmoved, a single heart beating in the quiet. Before dawn, the priestess returns to the courtyard. She kneels at the pool, and pours the bowl of water back into it, watching the circles widen and fade. She whispers a few words to the gods of river and sky, asking that peace remain through the turning of another day. The sound of her voice barely disturbs the air, but somewhere above her, a star flickers, as though in answer. She smiles and bows her head. The horizon brightens. A line of pale fire appears, spreading slowly, until the desert gleams with color. Servants stir, carrying baskets of fruit, pitchers of water, folded linens. The concubines wake one by one, their movements quiet and graceful, the stillness of the night still wrapped around them. They step into the early light, their feet brushing against cool stone. The air smells of dew and sweet grass carried from the river banks. As they bathe, the surface of the pool catches the first reflection of the sun. The priestess stands near the columns, her robe moving in the breeze. She raises her hands, murmuring a blessing that belongs only to this hour, a call to the new light, a promise to keep beauty alive in the slow passing of time. The women close their eyes, water running down their arms, the sound mingling with the whisper of the wind. When the ceremony ends, they move to the terrace. The sun rises higher, soft gold filling the sky. From here, the river shines like a road of glass, stretching endlessly northward. The women breathe together, the warmth of the day touching their faces. They speak little, yet each thought moves in rhythm with the others, a silent exchange that needs no voice. The hours of the morning unfold in gentle repetition. They practice music again, their fingers brushing strings and flutes. The notes drift through open windows, floating across courtyards where flowers lean toward the light. The priestess listens, her eyes half closed, her lips curved in a faint smile. She feels the calm of the palace extend outward, past the walls, across the fields, into the hearts of those who live by the river. She believes that every sound of peace ripples through the world like water touched by wind. Later, the concubines sit together beneath a fig tree, whose branches cast wide circles of shade. A servant fans them with palm leaves. Though the air is already soft, one woman hums quietly, another traces shapes in the dust with her fingertip. Their talk is low, not of longing, not of fear, but of small beautiful things. The pattern of light through a jar of water, the sound of silk sliding over stone, the way the sky deepens to blue just before evening. The priestess sits nearby, listening but saying nothing. Her presence alone feels like a prayer. By midday the heat gathers, pressing against the walls. The women return indoors. Curtains flutter in the faint breeze. The light becomes liquid, golden and slow. They lie down, resting their eyes, letting thoughts drift through them like the current of the Nile. Somewhere beyond the courtyard, a harp begins to play, the notes so distant they sound like memory. The palace breathes in unison with the earth, a living body of stone and silence. Evening approaches quietly, the heat dissolving into the scent of dust and myrrh. Lamps are lit, one by one, and the long corridors fill with their dim glow. The concubines gather once more in the courtyard, their white robes catching the last light of day. They sit beside the water, watching the reflection of the sky change from gold to rose to deep blue. The priestess joins them, carrying a vessel of fragrant oil. She tips it gently, and the surface of the pool shimmers. A thin ribbon of smoke rises, twisting upward until it vanishes among the stars. Her voice is low, thanking the gods for the balance of another day, for the stillness that protects them, for the beauty that endures when all else fades. The women bow their heads, some close their eyes, some smile faintly. The night comes back, quiet and forgiving. The air cools, the stars return, the desert exhales its long, slow breath. The women eat their final meal in the glow of the lamps, bread sweetened with honey, figs soft and ripe, water flavored with mint. They speak in whispers, laughter threading through their words. The priestess listens, her heart calm. She knows that tomorrow will be the same, yet within that sameness lives the grace of eternity. Afterward, they walk together along the corridor that leads to their rooms. Their shadows move beside them, long and graceful on the walls. One by one they part, each entering her chamber. The doors close softly, the lamps burn low. The priestess lingers alone, gazing through an open window. The moon has risen again, large and pale, laying its light across the river like a path. She whispers one last prayer, not for change, not for desire but for continuation, for the quiet to last another night, for the women to rest beneath the gaze of the gods. Then she sets her lamp down and sits in the darkness, breathing with the world. Outside, the sand cools, the river flows, the wind carries fragments of song across the dunes. Inside, the palace sleeps. The women dream once more. The priestess watches over them without moving. The silence deepens until it becomes sound itself, a heartbeat beneath the earth. Somewhere in that stillness lies the secret of the world. That peace once found can echo forever. So now, let the story slow, let the breath settle. The palace fades to shadow, the river to mist, the sky to quiet blue. The concubines drift deeper into dream, their souls as light as dust rising above the dunes. The priestess closes her eyes, the gods keep their silent watch, and time itself pauses to listen. You can feel the same calm reaching you now, gentle and endless. Breathe in, breathe out, and let the hush of ancient Egypt carry you into your own sleep, steady as the river, still as the stars, eternal as the silence between them. Beist break time equal sign, 2.0s. The medieval Europe, the candlelit wedding night. Break time equal sign, 2.0s. The wind moves gently through the valley, carrying the faint scent of rain and wood smoke. In the heart of the hills, a castle stands quiet against the dark, its towers wrapped in fog, its stones silvered by the light of a cold moon. Tonight, the great hall glows with candles, the air hums with quiet voices, the rustle of silk, the distant toll of bells that fade into the mist. The night is solemn, patient, wrapped in the rhythm of ceremony. Inside, beneath the carved beams and heavy tapestries, guests linger at long tables. Platters of bread, roasted apples, and wine have been cleared away, leaving only the soft clink of goblets and the murmur of farewell. The celebration has ended, the blessing has been spoken, and now the moment that all tradition points toward has come. It is the night of the union, not a spectacle of passion, but a ritual of continuity, a quiet promise made beneath the watchful eyes of family, faith and time itself. The bride sits near the hearth, her face turned toward the flame, her gown, white as linen newly washed, folds gently around her, her hands rest in her lap, fingers loosely intertwined, a sprig of rose still caught between them. Around her, women of the household move in silence, unfastening ribbons, smoothing folds, murmuring small comforts. She listens but does not speak. The air feels thick with expectation, yet peaceful, the hush before a new chapter begins. Outside the chamber, the priest recites the final words of blessing. His voice is calm and low, carrying through the corridor like a prayer half remembered. He speaks not of desire, but of faith and duty, of love that grows not in fire but in patience. The guests bow their heads, some cross themselves, others simply close their eyes. They think of their own vows, their own beginnings, their own quiet nights, when the future was unknown yet filled with hope. When the bells strike, the sound rolls across the valley, echoing against stone and snow. The groom rises. He is young, his eyes clear, his breath steady. He takes the candle offered to him, its flame trembling but unbroken. The light catches the gold thread on his tunic and glows along the edge of his hand. He turns toward the door, where the bride waits. The priest nods, the crowd parts like water, soft murmurs fading into stillness. Together, they walk through the corridor. The air smells of wax and pine, shadows dance on the walls, long and wavering. The steps beneath them echo gently, a rhythm older than any memory. At the threshold of the bridal chamber, they pause. Behind them family and friends gather, not to intrude but to witness. It is an old custom to see the couple safely to their rest, to bless the union with presence and prayer, to let love begin under the gaze of community and faith. The door closes softly. The candles burn low. The voices beyond the wall fall silent. In the chamber, the world narrows to a small pool of light. The stone walls hold their warmth from the fire. The air shimmers faintly with the scent of beeswax and rosewater. The bride stands by the window, looking out at the fields below, pale under the moon. The groom sets the candle on a table, its flame bending slightly, as if to bow. For a moment, neither speaks. The quiet feels endless, but it is kind. He moves first, taking her hand with care. She does not startle. She meets his gaze with calm acceptance. There is no urgency, no demand, only the slow understanding that two paths have joined. They exchange words too soft to carry, promises not meant for the crowd. The candle crackles, shedding wax that cools like pearls upon the wood. Time folds in on itself, the centuries breathing through them like a sigh. Outside, the wind continues to move through the courtyard. A few guests linger, speaking softly of blessings, of lineage, of hope for the future. The priest stands near the chapel door, watching the stars appear between drifting clouds. He knows that this union, like many before it, is both personal and eternal, a thread woven into the tapestry of the age. He bows his head, murmuring a final benediction. His words float upward, joining the hum of the bells. Within the room, the couple kneel beside the bed, hands joined over the folded coverlet. The priest's words still linger in the air, about faith, patience, the quiet labor of love. They do not repeat them, but the meaning settles gently between them. The bride thinks of her mother's voice, the stories told by the fire that love is built not in a single night, but across seasons through laughter and forgiveness. The groom thinks of the land he will one day tend, of the people who depend on him, of the small kindness that holds a life together. Their silence is an answer, a shared vow without sound. As the candle burns lower, the shadows grow softer, the flame sways but never falters. Its light touches the edge of a crucifix carved above the bed, the curve of a pitcher on the table, the folds of a discarded ribbon. Everything glows with a faint warmth, as if the world itself leans closer to listen. The air hums with the steady pulse of their breathing, the slow rhythm of hearts adjusting to a new harmony. Beyond the walls, the castle sleeps. The guards walk their rounds, boots whispering on the stones, horses shift in the stables, their breath curling into mist. In the kitchens, the last embers dim, the world grows smaller, quieter, until only the sound of the wind remains. The night settles into its final shape, calm and complete. In another room, the older women keep watch. They sit by a smaller fire, sewing and speaking in murmurs. Their words are of faith, not the rigid kind that demands proof, but the gentle sort that trusts in time. They remember their own weddings, the same candlelight, the same hope trembling beneath the surface of calm. They know that what begins tonight will carry far beyond them, into children yet unborn, into prayers yet unspoken. The thought soothes them. They smile, their eyes half closed, lulled by the hum of the flames. The hours pass. The candle gutters, flares, steadies, the fire sighs. Outside, the first hint of dawn appears at the edge of the sky. The mist begins to lift, revealing the valley below, fields, rivers, the faint outline of a village still wrapped in sleep. Inside, the candle finally softens into smoke, its last breath curling upward toward the beams. The new day waits beyond the window, pale and quiet. In that tender half-light, the world feels reborn. The castle exhales, the bells begin to ring again, not in warning or ceremony, but in gentle welcome. The sound carries over the hills, through the trees, into the hearts of those who wake. A new morning, a new bond, a new thread woven into the fabric of time. Down in the chapel, the priest returns to his prayers. He thanks God for peace, for the small miracle of two souls joined under the promise of love. He lights another candle, sets it beside the altar, and watches its flame rise straight and steady. Outside, the sky blushes with color, the river catches the light, and the day begins. The bride will walk again through the courtyard, her veil touched by morning air, her eyes steady, her smile faint. The groom will greet the guests, his words simple, his tone calm. The household will move with quiet joy, as though something in the very stones has softened. The scent of bread will fill the air, music will drift faintly from the great hall, and somewhere, in the hush between bells, the echo of the candlelit night will remain, the warmth of flame, the peace of union, the grace of faith. The day unfolds slowly, wrapped in the soft hum of morning life. The air inside the castle is cool, touched by the scent of bread baking and pine smoke curling from the chimneys. Servants move through the halls with light steps, their voices hushed out of respect for the new couple. In the courtyard, doves circle above the well, their wings glinting white in the sunlight. Everything feels touched by stillness, as if the world itself has paused to honor the beginning that was sealed under candlelight. The bride stands by the open window, the same one that framed the moon hours before. Her hair falls loosely over her shoulders, glimmering in the dawn. She holds the rose that had rested on her lap the night before. The petals have begun to wilt, yet the fragrance remains. She watches the mist drift away from the fields, revealing rows of wheat and the faint shimmer of the river. For a moment she simply breathes, in, out, feeling the cool air move through her, grounding her in this quiet new life. The groom enters softly, his steps almost soundless against the stone floor. He carries a small loaf of bread wrapped in linen, the symbol of provision and peace. When she turns, their eyes meet. No words are needed. He breaks the bread in half, offers her a piece, and they eat together. It is a gesture older than memory, a promise without speech. The act itself feels sacred, not because of ceremony, but because of simplicity. The priest had spoken of love as patience, and she now understands that patience is what fills the space between each breath, between the rising of day and the falling of night. They dress for the morning mass, their garments simple, white and unadorned. In the chapel below, the candles still burn from the night before. The scent of beeswax clings to the air, mingled with the faint trace of incense. The priest greets them with a smile, his eyes warm beneath the heavy folds of his hood. He speaks softly, offering a blessing for endurance and joy, for the strength to forgive, for the courage to remain kind. The couple kneel, heads bowed, the sound of their hearts filling the quiet between his words. Sunlight spills through the narrow windows, scattering fragments of color across the stone floor. It feels like a gentle affirmation from the heavens, that this day, this life, has begun in peace. When the service ends, the bride and groom walk through the courtyard together. The guests gather once more, their laughter subdued but bright. The older women clasp the bride's hands, offering advice whispered like secrets, half blessing and half memory. The men speak to the groom of harvests and leadership, of keeping one's word even when the world grows harsh. A child runs between them, chasing a dove that rises with a flutter of wings. The moment breaks into quiet laughter, easy and genuine, and the tension of ceremony melts into warmth. Later the feast begins anew. Long tables are laid with fruit, cheese and steaming bread. Wine flows, though not freely. It is a drink of celebration, not indulgence. The sound of a lute rises from the corner of the hall, joined by a soft tambourine. The music moves like light, through the room, unhurried, melodic, ancient. The bride listens, smiling faintly. The groom watches her, and feels the strange fragile awe of belonging to something greater than himself, to love, to lineage, to time. Around them, candles flicker in iron sconces, casting halos of gold on the stone. As the day fades toward evening, the castle glows again with amber light. The celebration quiets, guests drift away, and only a few remain near the hearth. The priest, resting beside the fire, writes a small note into the chapel's record, the names, the date, the blessing bestowed. His handwriting is careful, deliberate. He believes such things should be written slowly, so that the spirit of the day lingers in the ink. When he finishes, he closes the book, presses his hand to its cover, and smiles. Another thread of life, added to the fabric of the world. The bride slips away to the upper hall, where the windows overlook the river. The sky glows pink at the edges, and the first star appears in the blue. She can hear faint laughter from the courtyard below. The stable boy singing, the dogs barking softly, the sound of the well's chain creaking. She feels no loneliness, only a quiet calm, as if her heart has learned the language of stillness. The candle beside her flickers, and she cups her hands around it, watching the flame steady itself again. The groom joins her soon after. They stand together in the fading light, looking out across the valley. The land stretches endlessly, framed by forests and hills, every path leading toward some unseen horizon. He tells her that one day they will walk those paths together, visit the small chapel by the river, plant trees in the orchard below the tower. She listens, smiling. The vision is simple, but it feels like eternity. The world outside glows faintly, as the last of the sun disappears, leaving only the sheen of moonlight on stone. When night returns, the castle grows quiet once more. Servants extinguish torches along the hallways. The air cools. The couple retire to the same chamber, now filled with the scent of lavender and newly kindled fire. They sit beside the hearth, their faces illuminated by its soft light. The priest's words echo faintly in their memory. Love is the work of every hour, the faith that grows from gentleness. The bride leans her head against her husband's shoulder, and for a long time they sit in silence, the fire murmuring its quiet song. Beyond the window, snow begins to fall, slow, delicate flakes that vanish as they touch the warm stone. The world outside blurs into white and grey. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolls the hour, deep and measured. It marks not the end of celebration, but the beginning of years. Each ring seems to fold into the next, becoming part of a rhythm that will guide their lives. The groom closes his eyes, the bride exhales softly, and the candle on the table burns down to a thin golden thread. Later, as they drift toward sleep, the wind hums gently through the cracks of the window. It carries the scent of pine and the faint echo of the village below. The fire lowers to embers. The moon rises above the hills. Time slows until it becomes silence. In that silence lies everything: the promise, the faith, the quiet hope that tomorrow will unfold with the same grace as today. Their breathing synchronizes, the night deepens, and the castle settles once more into peace. Far below, the priest kneels in the chapel, offering one final prayer before rest. He thanks God for mercy, for love that begins humbly and grows strong, for the patience that keeps the world turning. His candle burns steadily, reflecting in the chalice beside him. He looks toward the altar, whispers a benediction for the couple above, and closes his eyes. The flame flickers, then steadies again, its light unwavering. Outside, the river moves beneath the moon, its surface glinting like a silver thread. The fields sleep, the woods breathe, the world turns quietly toward dawn. In every corner of the castle, peace endures. In the chapel, in the hall, in the chamber where two hearts beat softly in time. The candle on their table has gone out, but its warmth remains in the air, mingled with the scent of wax and rose. And as the night stretches toward morning, The story lingers, not of passion or grandeur, but of stillness, faith, and the quiet beauty of two lives joined under the calm eyes of heaven. The flame may fade, but its light lives on, carried through generations like a whispered blessing, glowing softly in the memory of time. Medieval dentistry, when healing was an art of courage. Morning stretches slowly over the village, soft light spilling across the roofs of thatch and stone. The air smells faintly of bread and damp earth, a promise of another working day. At the far end of the square, where the cobblestones meet the market stalls, a small wooden chair waits beneath a canvas awning. Its legs are uneven, its arms worn smooth by many hands. Beside it sits a man in a long coat, sleeves rolled up, tools glinting faintly in the morning sun. He is neither knight nor scholar, but something in between, a barber surgeon, healer of small wounds and great courage. His name is not written in any book, but the people know it by heart. They call him Master Alaric, a man who trims hair, shaves beards, and when needed, pulls a tooth that no prayer can silence. He carries his trade in a leather satchel, scissors, razors, knives, and the proudest of all, a pair of iron pliers polished from years of use. His hands are strong but steady, his eyes gentle. He laughs often, and that laughter seems to soften the very air around him. The market hums to life. Women set out baskets of apples and cloth. Children chase hens through puddles, and somewhere, a lute begins to play. The sound mingles with the murmur of conversation, the rhythm of trade, the pulse of life itself. Alaric stands, adjusts his coat, and lights a small candle on his table, a signal to the villagers that his work has begun. The first to arrive is an old farmer, his hat clutched nervously in his hands. He smiles, though the lines on his face betray a night of pain. "Just one tooth, master," he says, tapping his cheek. "The rest are still loyal." Alaric grins and gestures to the chair. "Then we'll honor that one service by letting it rest," he replies softly. The farmer laughs, sits, and the work begins. There is no anesthesia, no gleaming silver instruments, no sterile cloths. There is only sunlight, courage, and the warm hand of a man who believes that healing is a kind of faith. Alaric speaks as he works, his tone light. He tells a story about a rooster who thought himself a knight, about a cobbler who could fix anything except his own shoes. The villagers laugh, the farmer relaxes, and when the tooth finally gives way, it feels less like a battle, and more like a small act of freedom. Applause breaks out from the crowd. Someone hands the farmer a mug of cider. Someone else tosses a coin into Alaric's wooden bowl. The tooth is wrapped in a scrap of linen, and handed to the farmer like a trophy. "A brave man," Alaric declares. "You've faced what kings fear most." The farmer chuckles, his face lighter now, and lived to tell it. The crowd laughs, the music resumes, and the market swells again with easy joy. Each patient brings a new story. A young shepherd comes next, shy but smiling, a loose tooth rattling when he speaks. Alaric greets him as though they are old friends. "You'll feel a tug, and then the sky will shine a little brighter," he says. The boy nods, gripping the chair's arms. A quick twist, a flash of courage, and it's done. The crowd cheers again. The boy grins, gap-toothed and triumphant. "See," Alaric says, holding up the tooth, "proof that bravery is not only for knights." Around noon, the sun stands high, the scent of roasted nuts and bread thick in the air. The barber surgeon pauses for a moment, sipping from a tin cup of water. His apprentice, a freckled girl named Hélène, wipes the tools clean with linen soaked in vinegar. She is young but observant, watching every movement, every gesture. "Do you ever tire of this, master?" she asks quietly. "All these teeth, all these stories?" Alaric smiles. "Never," he says. "Each face is a lesson, each cure, a prayer in disguise." He looks across the market where the crowd still lingers, not out of fear, but fascination. In an age when pain is part of life and laughter the best medicine, his little corner of the square feels almost holy, not because of ritual or relic, but because people come to him with trust, and he gives them courage in return. A traveling merchant steps forward next. His cloak is bright with foreign thread, his teeth white but one darkened by time. "You've worked on half this town," he says, smiling. "Let's see if your hand is as steady as they claim." Alaric bows slightly. "My hand does what the heart allows," he answers. The merchant sits, and the ritual repeats. The gentle touch, the murmured reassurance, the flicker of sunlight on iron. When it's done, the merchant laughs, holding up his tooth for the crowd to see. He's a magician, someone calls, a miracle worker. Alaric shakes his head. "Just a barber," he says, but his smile betrays a quiet pride. By afternoon, the line has thinned. The last few villagers gather, not for treatment, but to listen. Alaric tells tales between patients, of saints who healed with touch, of herbs that whispered secrets to the brave, of laughter stronger than pain. His voice flows like the river beyond the fields, steady and soothing. The people lean closer, drawn not only to his skill, but to the calm that seems to follow him like light. Hélène listens too, her mind tracing the rhythm of his words. She wonders if courage can be taught, or if it grows like a seed planted by kindness. She thinks of her own hands, small and uncertain, and hopes that one day they might hold such steadiness. Alaric catches her gaze and nods, as though hearing her thoughts. Courage, he says aloud, isn't the absence of fear. It's what happens when the heart decides to stay open. The market quiets as the day fades. The sun tilts low, throwing long shadows across the square. The air cools, scented with evening smoke. The villagers begin to pack their goods, calling farewells to one another. Alaric wipes his tools, polishing the iron pliers until they gleam like silver. You treat those as if they were jewels, Hélène says. They are, he replies. They carry every story we've touched today. Before packing away his things, Alaric steps to the edge of the square and looks toward the hills. The bells from the church tower toll softly, marking vespers. He closes his eyes and breathes deeply. Thank you, he murmurs, not to anyone in particular, but to the world itself, to the sun for its warmth, the hands that trusted him, the laughter that carried through the air. Healing, he knows, is not a matter of tools or titles. It is a dialogue between pain and hope, and every day, he is fortunate to speak that language. As the last of the crowd disperses, a small boy lingers by the stall, holding a single copper coin. My mother says you fixed her tooth last spring, the boy says. She smiles again now. Alaric kneels, taking the coin but pressing it back into the boy's palm. Then that's payment enough, he says. The boy nods solemnly, then runs off toward home. Alaric watches him go, a quiet laugh escaping his lips. Night begins to fall, the sky turns violet, then blue, then black. Stars gather above the rooftops, glimmering like candlelight scattered across the heavens. Alaric extinguishes his own candle, folds his chair, and lifts his satchel onto his shoulder. The square is nearly empty now, but it still hums faintly with the echo of laughter. He walks slowly toward the inn, Hélène at his side, the sound of their steps mixing with the soft music of a distant lute. The day has ended, but its warmth remains. Somewhere, in the heart of the village, someone is telling a story about the barber, who healed with nothing but his hands and his smile. The tale will change with each telling, as all stories do, but the truth within it will stay. That courage can be found in the gentlest places, and that kindness once given, lingers long after the pain is gone. The morning after, the village wakes again under a pale sky, dew glimmering on the grass, smoke rising from chimneys. The square is quiet now, almost bare, except for a few crates left from yesterday's market. In the stillness, Alaric returns to his small workshop beside the tavern. The door creaks as he opens it, revealing a room that smells faintly of herbs and oil. Shelves line the walls, filled with jars of dried mint, sage and willow bark. There are scraps of cloth, coils of thread, and small instruments wrapped in linen. It is not the room of a scholar or a noble physician, but of a craftsman whose greatest tool is his patience. Hélène follows him inside, carrying the satchel of tools. She sets them down carefully on the table, still shining from the night before. It's quiet today, she says. Alaric nods. Healing always is, he answers. It's the silence after the storm. He lights a small lamp, the flame steady and calm. Dust swirls in the light, dancing like tiny sparks. He takes a seat and begins to sharpen his razors, the scrape of metal soft and rhythmic, almost musical. As he works, he hums an old tune, a melody from the days when he was a boy apprentice to his own master. He was a man with hands like stone and a heart like honey. Alaric says, smiling, he taught me that a surgeon must never rush. Pain passes but care remains. Hélène listens, fascinated. Did it ever frighten you, she asks, to hurt someone in order to help them? Alaric pauses, lifts his gaze to the light. Always, he says. That's why we must carry gentleness in our hands, even when the work is hard. Courage without kindness becomes cruelty. Outside, footsteps approach. A knock sounds on the door. A woman enters, her scarf pulled low over her face. She holds her cheek, eyes downcast. Master Alaric, she says softly, I cannot chew, and the pain will not rest. Alaric gestures for her to sit. Ellen brings a stool, a cup of water, a clean cloth. The woman's breath trembles, but Alaric's voice is calm. "We'll listen to the pain together," he says. "And then we'll let it go." The procedure is simple, practiced, graceful. Alaric speaks gently all the while, telling her about the sunrise, about a child who sang in the market yesterday, about how courage is a quiet song. When it's done, she exhales in relief. "You're brave," he says. "You see, the world moves a little lighter now." She thanks him, leaving behind a small loaf of bread as payment. Ellen places it on the table beside the tools. "You take less than they offer," she says. "And yet they bring more." Alaric chuckles. Gratitude is the best coin. It shines longer. As the day goes on, a few more villagers arrive. A boy with a chipped tooth, a soldier with a gash on his arm, an old woman needing a salve for her joints. Alaric tends to each with the same attention, the same humor. He tells stories that make them forget fear, and for a few minutes, the workshop feels like a chapel built not of stone, but of trust. Even the air seems gentler inside. When the last patient leaves, Ellen sits beside him, tired but smiling. "Do you think they'll remember you?" she asks. "They'll remember the laughter," he says. "That's enough." Evening falls. The lamplight glows golden against the wood. Alaric writes notes in his ledger, not of money, but of people, small records of lives touched. Old Tomas, good spirit, weak teeth. One line reads. Mira, steady as oak, smiled after. The ink dries slowly, each name a mark of connection. Ellen leans closer. "You write as if they're stories," she says. "They are," Alaric answers. "Every person who sits in that chair gives me a page of their courage." Outside, the sky darkens. The bells from the church ring softly. Alaric closes the book and stretches. "Come," he says, "let's walk." They step out into the cool night. The village glows faintly under the stars. The cobblestones gleam with dew, and the wind carries the distant sound of singing from the tavern. They walk past the market square, now empty, the same chair folded neatly beside the wall. "Tomorrow," Alaric says quietly, "there will be more pain, more fear, more laughter. The work never ends." Ellen looks up at him. "Do you mind?" "No," he says. "It means life continues." They stop by the river, where moonlight ripples across the water. Alaric kneels, washing his hands in the current. "Water cleans more than skin," he says. "It takes the day with it, the heaviness, the sorrow. That way, we start new again." Ellen mirrors him, dipping her hands, feeling the cold rush against her palms. For a moment, the world feels weightless. When they return, the village is asleep. The lamp in their window glows softly, a beacon in the quiet. Inside, the tools rest in their places, the air warm with the smell of herbs. Alaric sits one last time by the window, looking out at the stars. "Once," he says, "there were no healers, only prayers. Then came hands like ours, clumsy at first, but willing. That's how medicine began, with the courage to care, even without knowing how." He smiles faintly. The tools change, the names change, but the heart never does. Ellen listens, the flicker of the lamp painting gold across her face. "Then healing," she says, "is not just fixing the body." "No," he replies. "It's reminding someone that they matter." The words settle between them like music, soft and true. He closes his eyes for a moment, hearing the whisper of wind against the shutters. "Someday," he says, "you'll take my chair in the square. You'll tell stories, hold hands, pull pain from people's hearts as gently as from their teeth. And they'll trust you, because you'll see them, not just their wounds." Ellen blushes but smiles. "Then I'll have to practice my storytelling," she says. "That's the hardest part." Alaric laughs. "To make someone forget they're afraid, that's the true art." Outside, the moon climbs higher, washing the rooftops in silver. The night deepens, but peace lingers like a gentle perfume. The streets are empty, yet filled with the quiet pulse of life, the breath of a village healed by small acts of kindness. In every home, laughter and comfort weave together like threads in a tapestry. Somewhere, a child tells a friend how the brave barber surgeon pulled a tooth with nothing but a smile. Somewhere else, a woman touches her cheek and feels only relief, whispering a prayer of thanks. In the little workshop, Alaric leans back in his chair, eyes half closed. The tools gleam in the lamplight, silent witnesses to 100 stories. Ellen covers them with a cloth, then lowers the flame. The room sinks into the soft darkness of rest. Alaric speaks one last time before sleep. "Ellen," he says quietly, "people think courage means fighting dragons, but sometimes it's just showing up with a steady hand." She nods, "And a kind heart," she adds. "Yes," he whispers, "always that." The wind hums through the window, carrying the sound of the river and the faint echo of distant bells. The world turns slowly toward dawn. In the half-light, Alaric dreams of open fields, of faces smiling, of the candle in the market flickering against the dawn. His hands rest open on the table, empty but peaceful. Tomorrow will come, and with it, new stories, new fears to ease, new laughter to share. He will return to the square, light his candle, and once again remind the world that healing is as much an act of love as of skill. And when the sun rises, spreading gold across the village roofs, the people will wake to find the barber surgeon already at his post, his chair waiting, his tools gleaming. The first patient will smile nervously, the crowd will gather, and laughter will begin anew. Because in this small corner of the medieval world, courage is not the absence of pain, it is the faith that light can be found even in its midst. Alaric will raise his pliers, offer a gentle word, and the market square will fill once more with music, gratitude, and the soft unbroken rhythm of human hope. The Mongol Empire, breath of the steppe and northern fire. The wind moves first, long before the dawn, whispering over the sleeping grasslands where the horizon has no end. It hums across a world without walls, carrying the scent of frost and distant smoke, brushing the fur of wolves and the manes of horses. Here, in the vast heart of the steppe, life begins each day with breath, the breath of wind, of earth, of living beings, bound to the same rhythm. The sun rises slowly, pale and gold, touching the curved edges of the world. A line of riders appears on the ridge, dark against the light, their silhouettes swaying gently with the stride of their horses. They are not an army today, not conquerors or scouts, but travelers, sons and daughters of the steppe, moving with the land instead of against it. The dew sparkles on their boots, the sound of hooves steady as a heartbeat. Each horse breathes steam into the cold air, and the rider's laughter mingles with the wind. They belong to a people who know that freedom is not found in rebellion, but in harmony. To live here is to listen, to the grass bending, to the herds moving, to the sky itself. Their tents, round and low, are made of felt and wood, strong enough to stand against storms yet light enough to follow the horizon. They call them gers, and each one is a small universe. Inside, warmth, milk tea, the smell of roasted meat, and quiet voices telling stories of ancestors. Outside, the steppe breathes endlessly, the wind shaping the same old song. When morning fully breaks, the camp comes alive. Fires are stirred back to life, smoke rising in slow ribbons toward the sky. Children chase foals near the corral, their laughter sharp and bright. Women stir pots of simmering milk, the aroma thick and comforting. All unsaddle horses, tighten straps, check the sharpness of arrows and the strength of ropes. Every action flows into the next, with the ease of repetition, the rhythm of centuries. There is no rush, no confusion. Time here is circular, like the path of the sun, always returning to itself. A young herdsman named Temur leads his horses toward the plain. He carries no weapon, only a whip of braided leather and a calm smile. The animals follow him, as if drawn by trust alone. He rides bareback, leaning forward to whisper into the ear of his mare. She snorts and tosses her head, eager to run. He lets her. Together they move across the field, wind slicing past them, the horizon sliding open like a door. The steppe becomes a blur of color, gold, silver, green, shifting under the vast bowl of sky. Temur laughs, a sound swallowed by distance. For him, this is freedom, not the conquest of land, but the unity with it. By midday, the herd is grazing near a stream. The water is cold, clear enough to mirror the clouds. Temur dismounts, kneeling to drink. He watches the surface ripple around his reflection, the face of a man who belongs entirely to the world around him. He thinks of his father, who once said that a Mongol's wealth is not counted in gold, but in moments of peace beneath the open sky. Temur believes it still. He lies back in the grass, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath him, the rhythm of hooves echoing like a lullaby in the distance. Back at the camp, smoke rises from every tent. Lunch is being prepared, dried meat softened in broth, noodles thick with butter, and erig, the fermented milk that carries the taste of the land itself. The scent travels far across the plain, mingling with the scent of wild thyme crushed underfoot. Elders sit together, speaking of past winters, of good grazing lands, of constellations that guide the herds. Their words are slow, deliberate, like stones placed carefully in a circle. The young listen, not out of duty, but out of reverence, for here, every story is both memory and map. When the riders return from the fields, the sun has begun its descent. Shadows lengthen across the grass, painting it with shades of bronze and blue. Horses snort softly as they are watered and fed, the sound of their chewing blending with the creak of leather. The air cools quickly. A woman hums a song near the fire, her voice rising like smoke. It is not a song of war or triumph, but of distance, of rivers that never meet, of stars that drift apart, of longing that feels as old as the steppe itself. Yet even in its melancholy, it soothes, reminding everyone that they are part of something endless. As twilight deepens, the sky blooms with color, orange fading to violet, violet to indigo. The first stars appear, bright and sharp. Children point upward, naming constellations their ancestors once followed: the hunter, the mare, the great river of light. The elders nod approvingly. Knowledge here is carried not in books but in breath, passed from voice to voice, heart to heart. The fires are lit anew, small suns scattered across the camp. Around each one, families gather, bowls of soup steaming in their hands. Laughter carries through the air, low and warm. Someone beats a drum, slow at first, then steady, echoing the rhythm of hooves. The song builds, a harmony of men's voices, deep and resonant, layered with the bright thread of women's laughter. It fills the night with warmth, turning the open steppe into a single breathing home. Temur sits among them, his mare grazing nearby, her coat gleaming under the stars. He listens to the stories being told, of the great riders of the past, of the mountains that touch the clouds, of the wolves who guard the spirits of the plains. One elder, his hair white as frost, speaks softly: "We are not masters of the land. We are guests, and good guests leave the earth as they found it." The others nod. The fire crackles, the smoke rises straight into the still night. A child asks, "Grandfather, where does the wind go when it leaves us?" The elder smiles. "It goes to tell our stories," he says. "It carries them beyond the horizon, so the sky itself remembers." The child grins satisfied, and the circle of faces glows brighter in the firelight. The steppe, vast and unbroken, listens in silence. Later, when the songs have quieted, Temur steps away from the camp. He walks toward the edge of the ridge where the world opens wide. The moon rises, round and pale, painting silver lines across the grass. The wind brushes his hair, cool and dry. He closes his eyes and breathes deeply. In that moment, he feels the pulse of everything: the sleeping horses, the flicker of fires, the whisper of clouds. It is the heartbeat of the steppe itself, steady, ancient and alive. He remembers a story his mother once told him, that every creature has a spirit made of wind, and when it breathes its last, that wind returns to the sky to become part of the great current that moves through all things. He does not know if it is true, but when he breathes, he feels the truth of it. The air he inhales now might once have belonged to a hawk, a wolf, or a man who lived 1,000 years ago. Life, he realizes, never disappears. It only changes form, carried on the endless wind. Far below, the camp glows like a constellation fallen to earth. The fires pulse softly, each one a world of its own. Temur watches until his eyes grow heavy. He turns back, his footsteps light, his shadow long. The smell of smoke welcomes him home. Near his tent, his mare raises her head and nuzzles his shoulder. "Sleep, little sister," he murmurs, running his hand along her mane. "Tomorrow we ride again." He steps inside the tent. The air is warm, filled with the soft crackle of fire and the faint perfume of milk and leather. His mother sits near the hearth, mending a saddle strap. She glances up and smiles. "The sky was clear tonight?" she asks. "Clear and kind," Temur answers. She nods. Then the spirits are watching. He lies down beside the embers, pulling a blanket of felt over himself. Outside, the wind continues to hum. Soft as a lullaby, the horses shift. The fires breathe, and the steppe drifts into sleep. The night deepens across the steppe, until it becomes a sea of silver and blue, stars scattered like salt upon the horizon. The fires burn low, their glow soft as candlelight, and the camp falls into a gentle rhythm of sleep. Horses stand close together for warmth, their breath misting in the cold air. The grass sways, whispering secrets to the moon. Every sound, the soft crackle of embers, the sigh of the wind, the distant cry of an owl, seems part of one vast ancient breath. Inside his tent, Temur dreams of movement. He rides through endless fields, his mare galloping beside the river that shines like molten glass. The air is bright with dust and sunlight. When he looks behind him, he sees the shadows of his ancestors riding too, their shapes transparent as wind, their laughter rolling like thunder over the plains. They do not speak, but he understands the steppe remembers every hoofbeat, every song, every breath that has passed across its surface. It carries them all, as gently as the wind carries seeds. He wakes before dawn. The tent is dim, the coals still glowing. His mother sleeps beside the hearth, her hands folded peacefully. He rises quietly, steps outside into the chill. The world is hushed, wrapped in grey light. The stars fade as the horizon begins to breathe color. Pale pink, soft gold, a hint of blue. The smell of smoke and dew fills his lungs. The horses are awake, stamping softly, their manes wet with frost. He walks among them, checking each rope, murmuring to them by name. They respond with quiet snorts, as if speaking back. Soon, other tents stir. Women emerge with buckets and cloths. Men stretch their arms to the sky. The morning tea begins to boil, its steam curling upward like the spirit of the night, leaving the earth. Someone begins to sing, a slow, low chant that greets the sun. The song rises with the light, wordless and strong, and spreads from tent to tent until the whole camp seems to hum with it. The new day has begun, and the world opens once more. Temur mounts his mare, tightening the reins. His younger brother Arslan joins him, laughter already in his voice. They ride eastward together, chasing the edge of the sunrise. Their hooves beat a steady rhythm against the frozen ground, a song older than memory. The steppe stretches before them, endless and alive. Flocks of cranes rise from the reeds, their wings flashing white. A herd of wild horses runs parallel to them for a while, manes flying, then veers away into the open plain. The brothers laugh, their breath forming clouds in the cold air. They stop by a ridge, where the land drops into a valley, green even in winter. Smoke rises from a distant settlement, another tribe, perhaps, or travelers making camp. Temur watches in silence, feeling no threat, only kinship. On this land, borders are made of clouds, and erased by rain. The people of the steppe belong to the same wind, no matter where they roam. Do you think they sing the same songs we do? Arslan asks. Of course, Temur answers. The steppe teaches us all the same melody. They return as the sun climbs higher, its warmth gentle but fleeting. At the camp, children chase each other between the tents, playing with hoops made of willow. Women hang strips of meat to dry in the wind. Men repair saddles, sharpen knives, or carve patterns into horn handles. It is a world of motion within stillness, where work and rest flow together like the seasons. The air hums with contentment, with the quiet dignity of survival. At midday, the clan gathers for a feast, not a grand affair, but a celebration of life itself. Bowls of steaming broth pass from hand to hand. Someone pours erig, the fermented mare's milk, into wooden cups, its taste sharp and clean. Laughter rolls through the crowd. Children sit cross-legged, eyes wide, as the elders begin to tell stories. One speaks of the first horse, born from a bolt of lightning and wind. Another tells of a young herdswoman who followed the stars until she found a hidden spring that never froze. Each story, though different, carries the same heartbeat: respect for the land, for the creatures, for the unseen spirits that dwell between breaths. When the feast ends, the people rest. The sky has turned pale blue, streaked with thin clouds. The wind softens. Some nap beside their tents. Others walk to the river with buckets, singing softly to themselves. Temur sits on a hill, watching the horizon. He feels small beneath the sky, but not insignificant. Every blade of grass seems alive, every sound a message. He thinks about the generations before him, the riders who crossed mountains and deserts, who followed the stars not to conquer, but to understand. They lived by one truth: everything that exists is connected by the breath of the earth. As afternoon fades, a storm gathers in the distance. The clouds roll low, heavy and dark, the kind that bring wind more than rain. The camp moves with quiet precision. Horses are tied close, fires banked low, tents secured with ropes. No one panics. They have seen this many times. The storm arrives like a living thing, sweeping across the plain with a deep, resonant hum. The grass bends flat, the air fills with dust. For a few moments, the world disappears into grey, and yet within that storm there is peace, the wild, sacred kind that reminds them of their place in the great circle of life. When the wind passes, the world returns, cleaner and brighter. The air smells of rain though none has fallen. The sun breaks through the clouds, scattering gold across the plain. Laughter rises again from the camp. Someone beats a drum, slow and steady, calling everyone to gather. The night is near, and the people wish to thank the spirits of the land for their shelter. They form a circle around the central fire, hands joined, faces calm. The flames leap high, painting the air with sparks. A singer steps forward, his voice deep as thunder, singing of the bond between sky and soil. Others join, the harmony building like the rising wind. The song flows outward, into the grass, into the stars, until it seems the whole steppe is singing back. Temur closes his eyes, feeling the vibration in his chest. It is the sound of belonging, of being both small and infinite. He thinks again of his father's words, that wealth is measured not in gold but in peace beneath the sky. Around him, the people sway with the music, their shadows flickering on the earth. The firelight dances on their faces, soft and radiant. For a moment, everything feels eternal. When the song ends, silence falls like a blanket. The fire settles into embers, glowing red. The people drift back to their tents, whispering blessings to the night. Temur remains a while longer, gazing upward. The stars are brighter now, clear as glass. He breathes deeply, filling his lungs with the cold, clean air. Each breath feels like communion, a promise between himself and the living world. Freedom, he realizes, is not the absence of chains, it is the harmony of being exactly where one belongs. The night grows colder, but sleep comes easily. Horses breathe softly outside. The wind hums its endless tune, and the fires fade to ash. Above the quiet camp, the Milky Way stretches like a river of light, carrying the dreams of all who have ever lived beneath it. And among those dreams drifts a simple truth, as ancient as the steppe itself. To live freely is to live gently, to walk with the earth, to breathe with the sky, and to remember that every soul, whether man, horse or bird, moves to the same rhythm of creation. And so the story rests there, wrapped in the breath of the northern plains, where time itself moves like the wind, invisible, eternal, and kind. Dawn of humanity. From the golden palaces of ancient kings, to the quiet chambers of forgotten queens, from the echo of drums across the steppe to the gentle murmur of prayers beneath stone arches, humanity has walked a long and luminous path. The journey has never been straight, nor easy. It winds like a river, bending through centuries, carrying both sorrow and song. Yet through all the dust and light, the same rhythm endures, the rhythm of hearts that refuse to stop dreaming. Civilizations have risen like morning suns, and faded like dusk. Empires have spoken in the language of marble, gold and fire, then fallen silent, leaving behind only whispers in the wind. Still the spirit of humankind continues forward, patient, persistent, endlessly curious. It learns from each heartbeat of time, reshaping itself with every dawn. For every era, no matter how distant or different, has shared the same quiet longing to love, to build, to remember, and to be remembered. If you listen closely, you can still hear them, the songs of the Nile, the laughter in a medieval square, the hooves of horses racing across the northern plains. They live inside the breath of the world, carried by the wind, by memory, by you. You are not separate from them, you are their continuation, the newest verse in an ancient song. Every breath you take now is connected to theirs, the same air, the same hope. The night grows softer. The stars above fade into the faintest blue. Somewhere far away, the first light of morning touches the edge of the horizon. The world holds its breath for a moment, not in fear, but in wonder. This is how history feels when it sleeps. Calm, alive, infinite. The footsteps of generations echo faintly behind you, but they do not fade. They form a path, a bridge of memory, leading toward the quiet dawn that waits ahead. So rest now, let the weight of centuries settle gently around you like a blanket. Let the stories of those who came before flow through your dreams. The builders, the singers, the wanderers, the healers. They are watching over you, not as ghosts of the past, but as guardians of the human spirit. In their silence, you will find comfort. In their endurance, you will find peace. And as your breathing slows, as sleep begins to draw its soft curtain across your mind, remember this. You too are part of the great unfolding, one thread in the endless fabric of life. The world turns, the light returns, and the song continues. So close your eyes. Let the dawn rise gently within you. The story of humanity has no ending, only beginnings, and tonight it sings you softly toward a new one.